Hey guys, so we have a replay for you today of me versus a mid-rated player named Tedour. Actually, you know what? I'm going to start with, we played 2 games actually. I hosted this first one and then he hosted the second one. So, I've been playing as the Iberians lately, actually, which is crazy because if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I only ever play as the Kushites. So, I know that, like, the Iberians are much more OP civ than the Kushites. Like, I feel like in Alpha 25, I would say, from what I've learned, the Ptolemies and the Iberians are probably the 2 most OP civs. In Alpha 23, the Ptolemies are by far the most OP civ, along with, like, the Britons. And then, you also had the Romans were really OP in A23. Then in Alpha 24, the Marians and the Kushites became super OP because they gave archers a huge buff. And then in Alpha 25, they nerfed the fuck out of the archers. So it became Iberians. I don't know if Iberians were as OP in Alpha 23. I don't know if something changed in Alpha 25 that made Iberians more OP than they used to be. But yeah, it's pretty much Iberians and Ptolemies kind of rule now. Britons got nerfed a lot, so they're not as OP as they used to be. But yeah, Iberians have the walls, so they're pretty much like immune to raiding if you know how to defend. Basically, like you can garrison any of these towers. What we did do in this game was we had a ceasefire. So this is a really cool map. It's called Continent, and it's basically this big island surrounded by water. So you can take advantage of all these fishing spots. So for your food eco, you can take like a lot longer to switch over to farms because you can build fishing boats, which is what I decided to do. And a dock can also double as a storehouse, so I decided to take advantage of both the fish and this really big wood line right here by building a dock right here. I missed these berries over here. If I knew they were there, I would have definitely sent women to go gather those because that would have been a huge boost for my food early on. But let's see what Tedour is doing. We're about neck and neck when it comes to population. I am steadily pulling ahead of him. This is interesting, he's using his elephant to collect wood, but he has also built a storehouse. And he seems to have also built a dock. But yeah, I mean, if anything, his elephant could be like helping his cab get this hunt over here. He decided to neglect the chickens, which is very interesting. For a player of his rating, like I would expect him to take advantage of the chickens because there's kind of no downside for that. But what we both did do is we sent our cabs, since we were playing with a ceasefire, his rating was way higher than me, and he's played over like 140 games or something, or more than that. So I asked if we could play with a ceasefire to kind of make the game more even, because a lot of not top rated, but a lot of the more mid-level to higher rated players take advantage of raiding, or rushing quite a bit. So yeah, what was I saying? He's taking advantage of the fish as well, but not to the same degree that I am. I have a bunch of fishing boats. I sent this one out to explore to kind of figure out where all the fish are. And I have them coming out one by one, and now I'm getting the fishing net upgrade, which increases the gather rate of the fishing boats by quite a bit. And I'm still taking advantage of this wood line. I have 50 women. He actually has more women than me, which is interesting. Neither of us have started building infantry yet. So I guess we both have a really economy-focused way of playing. I mean, maybe he elected to do that because of the ceasefire. I think I put an 11 or 12-minute ceasefire on this game. But yeah, he's taking advantage of this wood line over here, which is a really smart move because he's kind of, by taking the wood from the center of the map, this is a really small map because of the, because of all the water surrounding it. If it's already a small size map, you have even less land to work with. So by taking out the wood from the center of the map, he's kind of depriving me of this area, which is a really good move, and it's only doable with the Marians. Because they have their worker elephant that allows you to gather resources from pretty much anywhere. So I'm still taking, there's really plentiful wood lines on this map, so like the wood lines are really chunky, and like you can just, like one wood line will last you like almost half the game. So yeah, Iberians are interesting because their houses, I think it's about 50-50 in terms of which of the civs give you 5 pop per house and which of the civs give you 10 pop per house. The civs that only have 5 population per house and they have the smaller houses are a little bit trickier to work with sometimes because you have to be much more on point with it. It's a lot easier to get housed because you have to remember to build houses twice as frequently, more or less. But it is, since the houses are cheaper, it is a little bit easier to have like a small designated group of house builders to keep building them because since they're cheaper, there's more occasions where you have, because what do they cost? Only 50 wood? 75 wood. Since they cost only 75 wood as opposed to 150, it's there are more occasions when, there are less occasions where you drop below 75 wood. So, here was my first big mistake of this game. I decided to do an expansion, but I decided to do the expansion right when the ceasefire ended. If I had done this, this was actually a major mistake on his part, which was not doing the expansion earlier, but I made basically the same mistake. I waited until right before the ceasefire was about to end to try doing my expansion. And I set these guys on stand your ground, so they're not even fighting. I'm literally just letting his archers shoot my guys down, which was such a bad move. He probably would have won out on this battle anyway, because he had the numbers. Because, yeah, I still had people back here on stone and metal, and ultimately I ended up building, well, no, he built the same amount of women as me. But one thing that I find interesting about his playing style is he only builds archers. He doesn't build he doesn't have like a balanced infantry build. He doesn't build any swordsmen or spearmen to go with his archers, which for me, like, I think in general it's just a good idea to always have melee infantry to go with your ranged infantry, because if you don't have that, like, it's as long as the opponent can get their melee people to your archers, they can just melt through like very large groups of them. The benefit that the archers do have is range, so they can hit you from very far off and kind of run away before you get the chance to catch up to them. But if you have skirmishers, you can take down large groups of archers very easily, because skirmishers are faster than archers. But he was able to take me down, like, very quickly, because, first of all, I set those guys to stand your ground, which was just so fucking stupid. And I waited way too long to do this expansion, and I think he was already ahead of me in terms of population at that point. Plus, well, it looks like neither of us have gotten any military upgrades yet, which is a huge mistake on my part. Do I even have a forge?
Yeah, see?
I did build my 2 forges, but because I sent all those people to do an expansion, I basically didn't have the metal necessary to get any of these upgrades, or the resources necessary to get them. So what I did do was I decided to build another expansion right here, and on a map this small, it's so important. Map control is literally the most important thing. It's the name of the game. So, yeah, this is putting me at a huge advantage, because he's now lost access to basically half the map. unless he can kind of take this out, which he does have the numbers to do it. And neither of us still have any military upgrades, which is crazy. I have 16 women here, or I actually have 24 women here, which is definitely a risky move, but I do have the infantry to kind of back them up. But, okay, so I'm now sending them. So, the fish are finally dried up for the most part. My fishing boats are having to go this huge distance to get these fish over here. I could have built a dock over here, but I didn't really have anybody over in this area to build that. So, so because I noticed the fish was running out, I sent all of my women who are cutting wood over to build these farms and switched my food eco from fishing eco to a farming eco. So I do get some kills over here because this wood line is kind of undefended, but ultimately after that first fight, he kind of he pulled ahead of me in terms of sheer numbers, and I'm not able to fight him off as it is. So I'm trying to kind of hide in this civ center. The awesome thing about, like, if you're playing defensively, Iberians are like the most OP civ because all of their civic centers are. Maybe not their civic centers, but I'm pretty sure their forts have more hit points. Their towers also have more hit points, and you can fit 8 infantry units inside of these towers. So they're firing out so many arrows all at once, and they're really hard to take down. So I like playing as the Iberians for the past couple days. I've been definitely focusing on gathering stone, which I didn't really focus on that much when I was playing as the Kushites. But stone, I would venture to say, if you're playing as the Iberians, stone is even more important than metal. You still need metal for the upgrades, but you don't have any mercenaries when you're playing as the Iberians. So, what do you call it? You don't have any mercenaries when you're playing as the Iberians. So mercenaries cost only metal, so you don't have all that extra metal that you're spending. You pretty much just have to worry about upgrades and then champions when it comes to metal. So you can put a lot more of your people towards getting stone than you normally would as like the Kushites, who only use stone to build like their their forts and towers. But normally when I'm playing as the Kushites, I don't really go for towers. But yeah, I'm trying to really have this area be well defended because this is kind of the only advantage. I know I don't have the population advantage by a long shot right now. But I do have the territorial advantage at the moment, and I'm desperately trying to hang on to that. I am very low on wood, so I have, I'm only just now getting the second wood cutting upgrade, which is very bad. It's very late in the game. I should definitely be getting the third wood cutting upgrade by now, if anything. And because of that, I have to compensate by having 81 people on wood over here. Just to keep up with like building and making military units. But I'm now going to phase 3. He's actually not even close to phase 3 yet, which is surprising. But he sent a lot of units over here, and I think he's going for an attack. He has 102 units. I only have 81 units here. I am 1 military upgrade ahead of him, but that's not going to make up for the difference of 20 units. And I was just beginning to build my stables to reinforce with, but he attacked me before I had the chance. So now I'm trying to kind of hide everybody in these towers in this civ center in order to kind of defend this area, because that way I can't really take any damage from his archers. But I still can attack by firing arrows out of the buildings. But yeah, so he realized this area was very well defended, and he made the smart move of coming around the side and going for my main base. But this base it's not defended in terms of there are only 16 soldiers here, but it does have all these walls. But this barracks was wide open, so he was just able to grab that. So now I'm sending all of my military units. I have 81 of them down to try and take on these archers, which is a fight I should be able to take on. But Yeah, for some reason it doesn't go as well as I would have liked it to. I think because it's because the units are kind of pouring in small groups, because I shouldn't have built this long line of houses here. I should have kind of left a gap here so that all of my soldiers would be able to kind of come in at once to fight him. But I did come out on top in terms of this battle. I was able to take out all of his archers except the ones that he hid inside the barracks, which I'm now trying to take back, but I lost too many units, and I don't think I'm going to be able to take that barracks back, unfortunately. Or if I do take it back, it's going to take a very long time. I do have a really good balance of food and wood right now, but I'm not capitalizing on that. I should be training units from the Civic Center. I'm just not. I'm only training 3 slingers at a time from the barracks. I should be training like 5 at a time from here. And I definitely should have had more barracks or stables built by now to reinforce with. I do have 2 stables, but I'm not producing from them either, which is a damn shame because I have so much food and wood. I rang the bell when his archers came to attack me, and I forgot to unring the bell. So now he sends these 2 big warships over to try and attack me with those, but he can't really do much with them. He is taking out my units little by little, so I should have kind of like ran them away from the shore. But in order to take care of these boats that he sent over, this is like a super OP unit that the Iberians have, are the fire ships, where they don't last long. They're burning from the minute they spawn, but you can just, they move really fast, and you can literally just run them right up to another ship, and it damages them so freaking fast. It's ridiculous. But I am... Yeah, he brought more archers over. I guess they came over on the boats, if I'm not mistaken. And now he has elephants. So, and I don't have anyone defending this Civic Center over here. I should have left some people in here, because he wouldn't have been able to... It would have at least bought me time to run my units back to fight his archers off here. But because I didn't have the Civic Center garrisoned, he was able to take it over really easily. So I was taking out his ships with these fireboats, and I was managing to defend my area back here decently, but I think once he took this Civic Center, I kind of resigned soon after that. Yeah, because on a map this small, like, he was so far in the lead in terms of population, and once he had the territory, after that first battle where I just built that expansion, like, way too late, not even way too late, like a minute too late. If I had built that expansion, if I tried to build that initial Civic Center like a minute earlier, when the ceasefire was still happening, or I guess if I had waited a little bit longer, because he wasn't expanding, which he should have. That was like a really sloppy move on his part, not trying to take the territory, because I'm sure he had the resources to do it. Because I waited too long to build that expansion, and I happened to pick a spot where all of his archers were out, like, collecting wood and, you know, storing it in the worker elephant, he was able to wipe me out. And after that first battle, he was just very much in the lead in terms of population. So I was able to get that second expansion, but basically I had map control, which was my one benefit, but he had the benefit of population at that point. So once I lost that map control, it was kind of, what do you call it? It was just a losing game for me after that. Interesting. He was ahead of me it's interesting because I remember my population was kind of ahead of his, but, for the beginning, but I'm not sure why, he was ahead of me for this whole beginning part. And I did actually manage to overtake him for a brief bit of time. I'm not sure when this was. Sometimes I was ahead of him in terms of economy for pretty much the whole first half of the game. But yeah, sometimes, like, the lines don't really seem to reflect how the game actually went. But, yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to also show you guys the rematch that we played right after this and show you guys how that one went. Hey guys, so this is the second game that I played today against a player named Tedour. I hosted the first one, he hosted the second one, and this was the map he chose, Pyrene in Syria. It's a map that I really like. It's really cool. It has, I think he went with normal size. I normally would go for a small size map for a 2-player game. But normal size maps are interesting because they really, the game can kind of go a little bit longer and resource control becomes extremely vital. And sometimes you often have to think about, in a small size map, you don't really necessarily need to do an expansion. You can expand with fortresses and, barracks, and just by going to phase 3, your territory gets really huge, and, once both players hit phase 3 in a small size map match, usually most of the map, the territory already takes up most of the map between the 2 players. But on a normal size map, you really have to think about doing at least one expansion, sometimes a second one, a lot of the time, unless you kind of go for an early kind of rush strategy where you kind of take them out early, but that's harder to do on a normal size map because your cav have to go that much further, your soldiers have to go that much further to attack. But a lot of the time it just becomes about it's like a war of attrition, and you're kind of just the player who ends up with the most resources ends up taking the game because if there's no metal left on the entire map, then the person with the more metal can get more upgrades, can train more champions, and you just also, depending on what kind of map it is, you might just have more space to build buildings for reinforcing and shit like that. But he's playing as the Marians. He's starting out with this row of houses. And he built a storehouse on the other side of this little mini wood line surrounding his civic center. I do that sometimes. Normally I wouldn't build it that early. I would let them take these couple of trees first to save on that initial wood. And then build the storehouse once, at a wood line, or if this goes back really far, I'll build it after I take out these first couple trees. But yeah, one thing I noticed that this player does not do is grab the chickens. You get such a huge boost in terms of food. Let's see, how many actual food is, in these chickens? 10 chickens with 40 food each. So that's 400 food that you get within the span of, the first minute of the game if you just send your cav to get the chickens. That's, that makes a huge difference. And you can see, my population's up to 50. His is, second ago was at 32 or something, but now it's at 39. So I'm playing as the Iberians again, which I love playing. I'm addicted to playing as the Iberians. I'm noticing that I'm able to boom faster with the Iberians than I was with the Kushites. They have the walls, so I'm able to play a much more defensive game successfully than I was with the Kushites. The units in general, the fire cav, are just stronger overall than any unit that the Kushites have. You get slingers, which is crazy. You get skirmishers instead of archers, which is better. So it's almost like before I was playing on hard mode. And now that I'm fucking with the Iberians, it's okay, damn, I'm a better player than I thought. I'm noticing I can take on higher rated players just because I'm working with, a more OP civ, which is fucking awesome. I love that. And this is from, a day of, I think this morning I started. It was either yesterday or this morning I started playing as the Iberians. I was just fuck it, try something new. But, I have, my 2 little designated skirmishers who are, my house builders. Tedour is getting housed. It's very easy to get housed as, the Iberians or the Marians, because every 5 population you need to build another house. And, it's hard to remember that shit, but it is cool, because, there's more space in between the time you build each house when each house gives you 10 pop, right? So if the house only gives you 5 pop, you kind of have to build them almost continuously. And because of that, it makes it easier when each house is only worth 5 pop to have like designated house builders. And sorry. Yeah, what was I saying? It's easier to have designated house builders, like a small group of like 4, and that's way more efficient than like pulling everybody off resources. Just like build a house like once every 45 seconds to a minute, you know? It's much better to just have that continuous house building action going. So now I'm building my first barracks. Also, I noticed a lot of the Iberians' buildings are way smaller, which is like way more efficient. You can build more of them. Their market is like the size of a storehouse. Same with their forges. That shit is crazy. Like, it's so much more efficient that way. And I think even their storehouses and farmsteads are smaller than they are for the Kushites. Everything's like big with the Kushites, which is cool, but like, it's like, you know, especially when you're working within these walls, like, it would be a fucking pain in the ass to like try and fit Kushite-sized buildings in here. Shit would be ridiculous. But yeah, so I'm sending some peeps out to build a storehouse by this wood line, because there was a lot of wood inside the walls of the surrounding my initial territory. So that was cool. I was able to take advantage of that. And now I am sending the women over to these trees to start chopping them down. And I'm already going to phase 2, which is crazy. I never find myself going to phase 2 7 minutes into the game as the Kushites. I'm usually going into phase 2 like much later on, like 10 minutes in. Like, it's crazy. Like, the build order of the Iberians is just like the build orders that you can utilize, and like the booming is just fantastic. Like, I'm up to 95 in, what is it, 7 minutes and 19 seconds? That's really good, you know? Like, I never get to those levels with the Kushites. Ever, period. Like, so I did notice I got housed for a minute there, which is crazy. Even getting housed, I'm able to boom this fast, which is out of this world. Like 105 pop in less than 8 minutes, in like less than 7.5 minutes. Like, I was never, like, this is probably like the fastest boom of any game I've ever played, which is crazy, because like, I didn't realize how like kind of handicapped of a civilization the Kushites actually are. Like, they're cool. I like the aesthetic of them, but like at the end of the day, like, I feel like this is just objectively better. You know what I mean? Like, so he's definitely taking good advantage of his worker elephants, and he just passed me in terms of population. Holy shit. I feel like I was so far ahead of him for a minute. He's got a really good boom going, shit. He played this very well. I'm surprised. Like, this shit's crazy. I mean, I'm not surprised that he played it well, because he's got a good rating, but honestly, I'm surprised at how the game ended. But, he does have this one thing where he only builds archers. Like, he doesn't build any, spearmen. And then I think even in phase 2, Marians get swords, and I don't think he builds those either. It's a really cool strategy. I really like the idea of only archers, but if your opponent comes in with any cav whatsoever, it completely beats the archers, because it's like the only benefit that archers really have is range. And if you have cab, you can just close that gap within like 2 seconds and it's over, you know? Like especially like melee cab, like spear cab or sword cab, you get in amongst those archers and it's just a fucking bloodbath, like literally. I'm foreshadowing. So now I'm building a market, which is dope. Look how tiny this market is. I love this. Like, I don't know if, like, anyone else has never played as the Kushites before, didn't for a long time, or sorry, the Iberians before, and, like, didn't play as them for a long-ass time, and then, like, played as them, and, like, saw how OP they were, but, like, holy fucking shit. Like, I'm doing so good. And we are literally neck and neck in terms of population. That is fucking crazy, yo. Like... I need to get the updated version of the Boom GUI mod. So I think I'm going for my first expansion because I pulled everybody off stone and metal. Problem is I'm housed. So, okay, so I did realize I was housed and I started building houses. But, oh, that's cool. You can do, okay, yo, I'm gonna set up all of my, shits like I do in the game. Like when I'm actually playing, I always set all my houses, storehouses, and farmsteads to control 0. I do my civic center, number 1. I mean, you've probably seen videos of me, like, actually, like, playing against someone before, and I do this. But now I actually have time to, like, explain it. So the logic behind it is, like, civic center is 1. It's always, like, the easiest thing to get to, right? And it's your main thing that you're producing units from for the whole start of the game. 0 is like all of my economic buildings, right? So I can get my farm upgrades, I can get my wood upgrades, I can get my metal upgrades, I can get my house upgrades, I can build women from houses. All of that is, and it's not that many things to like sift through, you know, it's just this one row of things and they're in order: houses, farmstead, storehouse. So it's very simplistic, it's all on one line and it's just one key, so it's easy to get to any of that shit. 1 is self-explanatory. I always set all of my barracks to number 2 because those are the buildings for like the whole mid-game, unless you're doing some crazy like rush strategy. For the whole mid-game, you're pretty much focusing on infantry and most of your units are coming out of the barracks, right? So that's like an obvious candidate for phase 2, and I like to put them all on 2 so that I can, you know, produce from all of them at the same time easily. So then I do my expansion, right? And my expansion is number 4. Because 3 is... Well, actually, 3 is usually my mercenary camps when I'm playing as the Kushites. So, I don't know, 3 is like an open candidate for... You know what? 3 should be all of my walls as the Iberians, because sometimes you need to put people in them. If you put people, if you get raided and you need to send everybody into like the turrets and the walls and shit like that early game, then it's easy to like right click and point and send them all back out at the same time to whatever they were doing. So that's the logic behind that. Market is number 5. So basically 1 through 4 is shit I'm going to be producing units from, more or less. Then 5 is the market, and I haven't made the forges yet, but I do 6 for forge. So 5 and 6, those are like your mid-game kind of upgrade buildings. So you're going to get all your military upgrades from your forge, so that's number 6. Number 5 is market, just in case you need to like trade or whatever. So yeah, the market's a super important building, so I put 5 because that's like the center of the number, so you remember 5. And then 6 for the military upgrades. It's really like, I don't know, I feel like you could really do anything with it. Like you could have a completely different system, but this is my system and I find it works pretty well. Usually I'll put all of my stables on 4 as well to go with the second civic center, because the second civic center is like, usually producing from it isn't quite as important, you know? So I kind of just put it with the stables to kind of like, if I need to utilize it, I can, but I save, well, I guess like I could put the stables on 3 now. No, because my walls are on 3. So yeah, I think stables on 4 is a good pick. But, we are still within 4 pop of each other. That is fucking crazy. This late in the game, when it's this neck and neck, that always makes for a good game. You know, you have 2 like really evenly matched players, which is, yeah, it's crazy. He's pulled ahead of me at this point, but he has not done an expansion. So he's honestly, for sacrificing that expansion, he should be like 20 or 30 ahead of me. But I was able to do the expansion and still pretty much keep up within 7 pop of him, so that's really good. In terms of military upgrades, he's ahead of me. He already has his initial 4, and he's already at phase 3. So he didn't do an expansion, but he got to phase 3, right? So I would say, all in all, usually getting to phase 3 is more important than the expansion, right? But the expansion is better for, like, the long game. Like, if he attacked me right now, I would be pretty screwed, because he can build, like... Yeah, he's building arsenals now, so he can attack me with rams and shit like that. I don't have access to any of that shit yet, because I'm still in phase 2. But I do have all this extra territory, which for the late game, if he waits to attack me, which thankfully he's given me some time, you know, to catch up. For the late game, now I have control of this whole part of the map, right? So it looks like he's doing an expansion too, but he's doing a ballsier expansion. He's coming across to my side and doing the expansion there. So the benefit of that is, if you build okay, so one benefit of it is you can, it's a very short distance to your opponent's base. So you can build a bunch of rams there and just send them straight in. And you could mount your main attack, like, elsewhere. So, say he attacked me over here, all my soldiers are over here, because this, being my expansion, is kind of where I'm going to attack from, generally speaking. Sometimes an expansion can just be to, like, get resources or whatever, but chances are, if you make an expansion, you're going to have most of your soldiers in that area, because it's going to be closer to your opponent. So, generally speaking, if you have it close to your opponent, that's good, because you can send siege, like, straight away or whatever. But the benefit of having it close to your original territory is, and I should have done this, you can build buildings connecting the 2 territories. Okay, they're already connected because phase 3. So the good thing is, if I lost this one, I would still have access to these buildings. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I think it would be close. I really should have built these stables closer to over here, because Cav can run so fast, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, like, in terms of getting them into the battle. But I definitely should have continued. Well, this is better. I should have continued this line of stables out to at least here, because that way, just in case I lose the expansion, they still stay a part of my original territory or whatever. So the thing with this is, building one really far away, it's good because you can kind of get the jump on your opponent, but it's bad because if this isn't reinforced, well, first of all, if he builds a bunch of buildings around this and I manage to take just the Civ Center, then I get all those buildings, you know, which is crazy. But another thing is, like, if I attack him here, yeah, he has most of his army here, 103, but if he needs to send these guys in to help him out, these 63, it's going to take them a long-ass time to get here to actually help him. Plus, he doesn't have any barracks or stables around this expansion. So if I take, because that would solve that problem. He could leave people out there to collect resources if he has a bunch of reinforcing buildings here, because he can keep sending people from here if I kill all these. But if I start killing all these right now, by the time he gets his other people here, they'll all be dead, and I'll be able to just attack them, you know, and take him out in 2 small groups instead of, like, his whole army kind of together, or at least having reinforcements coming from a short distance. So it looks like he managed to take out 6 of my women from the farms, but I managed to hide the rest of them, and then he started to retreat for whatever reason. I guess because he saw they were hiding, he couldn't do much. So this is the first big battle. I have 147 people here. He only has like 75 now. So that was what I was saying about if he sent these guys in too, he would have won this battle probably because he would have just had strength in so many numbers. Maybe it's debatable. We both have the same amount of military techs, which is crazy. But yeah, he doesn't have anyone to replace these soldiers as they're getting killed. He should have built a bunch of barracks over here. Honestly, he should have built a bunch of stables because he has enough wood. I mean, really, he needs more people on food probably right now. We both do. Yeah, we both need like increased food production to like reinforce adequately. But he would at least be able to get a wave. If he had like 8 barracks or 8 stables, he would at least be able to get a wave coming to kind of like, you know, make this fight, give him a bit of a higher chance of winning this fight. But ultimately, realistically, he doesn't need, he has a ridiculous amount of people on wood and he's floating it. Like 75% of these guys at least should have been with that initial group trying to win this fight because I just had I had my whole kind of army together in one spot and now I'm reinforcing with stables. Whereas he had his completely split up. And for what? So that he could have 11k wood? You know, that's not worth it. So I'm taking this barracks back. All he got was a barracks and he killed 7 women. I killed 89 of his people and he killed 33 of my troops. And I was able to immediately replace those with cav. The crazy thing is though, the Marians have 330 pop cap. His population is way higher than me. And yet I was able to completely win in that battle because what do you call it? He had his shit completely split up. He had the majority of his army almost back there. And now he's sending another kind of small group. This time he has rams. Which is cool, but like... Let's see, he's sending quite a bit. That's crazy. This is 132 archers. And I have the same amount right here because he keeps splitting his forces up. He had like, why not use this ram, right? Like you need to, you can't shortchange yourself. Like when you're going into battle, you need to like get your eco upgrades. Like those are important. He has them. So he only needs a few people on wood. He has half of his army on wood, and soon his pop's going to be below mine because he keeps sending these small contingents of the weakest unit, archers, in. You know, archers have the benefit of range, but up against skirmishers who have that increased movement speed, it's no contest. Now I'm ahead of him in terms of military tax. I don't know if he's low on metal or stone. He could even have, he's only utilizing this metal mine, as far as I can see. All of these people on wood, if not putting them in the battle, he could have had all of them on metal and stone, like getting himself some champions or whatever, you know? Or the upgrades. I mean, he's getting them little by little, but... you need to take advantage of the metal and stone, like the mineral resources. They're the most, like, they're the late game resources. You know, you can't run your whole game on 10,000 wood, you know? It's pointless. You could trade some of it away at the market for a little bit, but, like... So he managed to get 2 rams in. But... yeah, his troop, he didn't send enough troops with the rams. Yeah, he is at, no, I'm ahead of him in terms of military technologies. He's ahead of me in terms of eco. Plus, like, I got this additional 20% melee attack damage that the Iberians have, which is crazy. It's like 20% more than any other civ could get. Iberians are so OP. If I was playing him as Kushites, I might have lost. So now he's sending... I don't know what he thinks 63 archers is going to do. Because he saw how big my army was. I have more than twice the amount as him. He should have gotten everyone together, because he still had me on the back foot technically this whole time, you know. He should have he's still ahead of me in terms of population. Like, this could have been his game, like, easily. But he's trickling troops out, you know. It's like trickle-down economics. It doesn't work. Anything that trickles, stay away from it. So he's getting rid of some of my stables. This was intense because he sent like a shit ton of rams in at once. And I don't have, I think he killed most of my swordsmen, because the swordsmen are like the first to go into battle. I definitely should have produced more swordsmen, because I didn't realize that extra upgrade, I just realized now that it's only for melee. Like, I should have definitely took advantage of that. Skirmishers and slingers are good, you know. I have about, 57 slingers. Slingers can take down rams if you have enough of them. That's a good thing. I also have spear cav, which is helpful. I still need to get the champion cavalry upgrade from the stables. I need to rebuild these stables, because these are super important for me to be able to reinforce. Because he's going to keep attacking me, I assume. It's just if he, like, now my population's actually higher than his. Look at the kill death, 321 to 113. If in that first attack he had sent all of his archers at once, at that point, he could have taken me down. You know, I would be on the back foot, not just in terms of territory, but also in terms of, like, and not just in terms of population, but also in terms of, like, military, you know, in terms of kills. But yeah, I think my KD being as high as it was throughout this game kind of, like, gave me the motivation to, like, keep fighting, even though it was, like, also the fact that I was just, like, killing his archers. It was, like, intimidating, like, those waves coming one after another, especially when he got the rams in and he got all my stables. I thought it was over at that point. But yeah, luckily I had enough units to kind of, take care of it. So what I do with the, with this is I usually, I'll queue cav to come out of all the stables, and then I'll, in their queue, I'll say run to the civic center, go in there, then run to this stable. If it's full, go here. If it's full, go here, 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 here. And that way, and I have them all on control 4. So yeah, I can just tell them all to kind of go to one spot and pop them all out of the civic center and the stables at once after I've, like, built up a bunch of them. Because that way they're not, like, clogging the landscape, you know, like having all these cav when you're not actually in a fight yet. Ooh, then I built this monument thing. Ooh! The Gur Origari Revered Monument, which in a certain range, soldiers plus 20% melee and range attack, range 50 meters. I don't know how far 50 meters is, but, yeah, you can only build them, like, really far apart, so I'm assuming they have a really wide radius. Yeah, here we go again. It's like, what's he gonna do with, like, he's still collecting wood. There's no reason he needs to still be collecting wood. Like, he just has so much of it. Like, he can collect wood in between the fights, but, like, there's no point in having half your troops just back collecting wood and the other half fighting. Like, wood is, once you have the 3rd wood upgrade, you can function off of, like, you build up a surplus before the battle, and then, like, you can function off of, like, 20 to 30 people on a wood line, you know? Maybe 40 tops. Because then you can just, you can keep producing, especially if you build up a surplus, you can keep reinforcing, and then when the battle stops, you can, like, afford to, like, build up a surplus again, you know, like, put, like, a bunch of people on there. But during the actual battles, you only need, like, maybe, like, 20 or 30, maybe 40 tops on wood. So I finally took care of this, because this was a pain in the fucking ass. Oh, and I got the champion cap, so I got my hero, who, what does he do? He, increases the armor of everyone. And I also got some of the fire cav, which are fucking badass. They shoot flaming javelins. They're like the most powerful unit in the game. Like, people don't even like, people like ban the Iberians because of the fire cav, or they'll just ban fire cav. They can take down buildings. They set enemies on fire, I think. It's fucking crazy. So I was able to take control of this, so now I control this whole side of the map. And yeah, now he's down to 187. Can you believe he was up to like 330 and I was only at like 240 or 250, and yet here we are? He just, he pulled his punches. Like, he only sent like a little bit at a time. Why do that? Especially if you're so far in the population lead. I don't know if he knew he was, but also he didn't build any reinforcement buildings around his second civ center that he was using to attack from. And then it just kind of became useless, you know, it just became a place for him to collect more wood. He should have at least taken advantage of the mineral resources in his territory. He has lots of metal, stone, like he could have built a shit ton of champions. He could have also built like swordsmen or spearmen, you know, like there's no point in doing just archers. So this was crazy. He was like, oh, I'm gonna take her civ center, you know, like probably remembering that it was weekend, and he probably saw that I didn't have it garrisoned, so that could have gone really bad. But like, he had such a small, that was like kind of a last ditch effort for him. I think he had such a small contingent of archers to try to take it with. He definitely could have got it, but yeah, I saw what he was doing, and it was very easy to deflect that. Yeah, he still only has 7 military upgrades. That's wild to me. He didn't touch any of this metal. Like, he definitely has booming down, but in terms of strategy, like, he needs to gather minerals and he needs to get off the wood. So, like, here's the crazy thing. This is fine. These should have been his woodcutters for most of the game. Just them. Just these guys right here. And I don't know where they're walking to, but that huge group of archers, he had like 60 archers. Oh, I guess I accidentally sent some people over. He had like 60 archers on this wood line, and then he had like 30 on this wood line, and he was just sending the rest in to fight. And it's just like, send them all in to fight, except for like this little group right here, who now he has to send to fight because he's running out of units. And I'm still only at 248, but like, my units are so much stronger than his, and he's sending them in such small groups that it's like very easy for me to take them out. Ooh. So yeah, I rebuilt my stables now. I have 13 of them. So every time a unit dies, it's just going to be another one pops out, like almost instantly.
Yeah, see?
And I got the batch training upgrade, I think, for the stables, which is dope. Yeah, so super fast batches come out. But I'm building them one by one, but I'm not even going to need to use them, ultimately. Yeah, I built up a really big surplus. Not even much of a surplus, because I was continuously using it, but I utilized a lot of the metal on this map. I don't remember exactly. I mean, I know I was on this metal mine for a really long time. I think there was one here that I completely used up. There was one by the Civic Center, the second one. Yeah, you gotta take advantage of the mineral resources, because as the battles went on and on, instead of losing resources, my units were getting stronger and stronger. Like, I was able to, like, every time my units would die, I would add champions to the mix, you know? And at that point, it's just like, if he just keeps making more and more archers because he didn't get any metal, then, like, I'm just gonna be able to, like, rip through them, you know? Because, yeah, you just need to gather mineral resources. That's the bottom line. Like, he had the crazy boom, and he had the Marian 330 population limit, like. And the funny thing is, his score is 15,431, but that's just because he gathered so much fucking wood. His economy score was ridiculous out the wazoo, but he didn't even get to utilize all those resources because he wasn't gathering a good balance of stone, metal, food, and wood. He wasn't even getting enough food for a lot of it. I think he increased his farms toward the end, but he had 50 soldiers on wood who could have been getting mineral resources or fighting, like one or the other, but not just wood. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah, you could tell his eco score was way ahead of mine through the whole thing, but it didn't matter because he was just sending those tiny little groups of soldiers in at a time. Alright, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe and hit the bell if you want to see more videos. Tom0AD emailed me, and me and him and Jim all want to do like a collab video. So go follow both of them. Go follow Kate0AD and Leopard0AD. And yeah, I'll see you guys around.